Could call the meeting to order. If everybody rise for the Lord's Prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Ramirez.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
9 present.
Okay, the first item on the agenda, we have Michael Creasy here from the Lowell National Historical Park to discuss with us the canal, the Great Canal cleanup scheduled for this week. Mr. Creasy?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick reminder and a thank you for the city's support on this. TJ and the city manager and the mayor were out for the press conference, I guess, last week, and I think really kind of signified a signature moment, I think, for the city in terms of how we deal with the stewardship of the canals. I'm not sure that we're 100% pleased with where we ended up today, but we're going to make it happen. The volunteerism effort is coming on strong. I think we have something like 200 different individuals and groups signed up, everybody from the Girl Scouts to the UML lacrosse team. So I think it'll be a great turnout beginning on Thursday and Friday, where the city and the national park will participate in a mobilization and the logistics on our behalf, and then Saturday will be the volunteer cleanup. The real reason I'm here is not to necessarily brief you on that, because Michael LaFleur is doing a great job of reporting this in the newspapers, but is to say that there is one item at the bottom of the canal that's not going to be cleaned up, and that's due in part to your dive team at the city police department. We had an unfortunate incident whereby the gates at Francis Gate broke and sent a flood water down through the canal to swamp locks, of which we moor 4 of our canal boats, of which at one point in time our canal boat was 12 feet underwater during the press conference, I must say, at that time. The diver team came in and strapped these harnesses around the boat, and we were able to bring it up with a crane. So I just wanted to say to Superintendent Davis that we very much appreciate the dive team being a part of the rescue of the Jackson Canal boat, and on behalf of the National Park, we really appreciate the police department and the dive team support. And so I wanted to leave this with you, maybe TJ, and maybe you could get that to the mayor. Or to the superintendent. Thank you. Hope to see you out on Saturday at the Great Canal cleanup.
Stays in Lowell, you know, that doesn't go to Boston.
Michael, before you leave, is it still too late? Is it too late now for people to volunteer, or people that may be interested? Could they still volunteer?
Absolutely. No, it'll be all the way up till Saturday morning. If they want to just show up, they can show up, and they'll sign up at the visitor center on the court. You can park in Dutton Street, so on the Market Street side, we'll enter out on the Mack Street Plaza and get all the logistics, and then we'll have a lunch afterwards just to celebrate the success. It's going to be a nice sunny day.
Okay, and we'll make sure that the dive team gets this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
So I believe it's registration Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Is that correct? 8:30 for those who are interested in participating in the canal cleanup on Saturday. Okay, first item on the official agenda is minutes of the October 17 meeting for acceptance. Motion to accept the minutes by Councilor Ramirez, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are accepted.
Present.
I'm sorry.
2 present.
All right. 2 present, Councilor Milanazzo and Councilor Armin Mercier. Under the city manager's portion of the agenda, there is, I'm sorry. First, we have unfinished business. We have a petition for a pole location, National Grid at Westchester Street. I believe this matter was held for 1 week by rule. Is there a motion? Oh, no.
Someone's here. He's here.
Okay, I'm sorry. It was held because the public hearing was continued because no one was here for National Grid. So let's open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this petition on Westchester Street? Someone from National Grid?
Good evening, David Boucher, National Grid out of North Andover, design technician. I requested the town to, their project to, the city, to widen Westchester Street, come up with new pole locations to relocate our existing poles, a total of 8 of them, 7 of them on Westchester Street and 1 on Stevens Street. And if the city sees fit tonight, it will enable us to go forward with the project to move the poles to the new positions, transfer our lines, and have all the utilities move over, and then eventually pull out the old poles so they can go forward with the project. Any questions? Or
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition, hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council?
Refer to the wire inspector.
Motion to refer to the wire inspector by Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Roll call, please.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, that matter's approved. If we could just ask you to remain 1 minute. Is there any objection? I have a motion about a light pole that affects National Grid. Is there any objection to
moved.
taking that out of order at this time?
So move.
Motion to suspend the rules, take it out of order by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Rules are suspended. The motion is the City Council requests the City Manager have the proper department address the lighting of a flagpole at Coburn Park. And just briefly, we installed a new park earlier in the season. I believe Councilor Rita Mercier filled in for me at the dedication. We had a resident who donated considerable sums of money to make this park a reality. It does consist of a flagpole which needs to be lit at night. And I know Mr. Bellegarde has been working on this project for a while, so if I could just make you aware, I believe it's Coburn Park on Chelmsford Street, and any assistance we could get from National Grid in getting the proper lighting installed, we'd appreciate.
I could have our business service person contact the correct person to set up that lighting for the pole, find out who that is in Lowell. Who would be the correct person to contact?
Probably Mr. McCarthy at the City Manager's office.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yeah.
okay.
970-4000.
Okay, I'll do that. And one note, I did notice a little bit further on the agenda, you had petitions, and you had our Industrial Ave petition. And I don't know if you're expecting anybody from our company to be here about that. Under petitions, conduit location?
That gets referred to a
I
public
think
hearing.
that will get referred for a public hearing at a later
Another
date.
time.
Okay.
And you'll
I
be
just want to
notified.
make sure, I didn't know anything about that one, so
Okay.
I'm going to take off. So I'll have our contact Mr. McCarthy.
Okay.
And-
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercia.
And Mr. Mayor, to get a little bit closer to that point, that Coburn Park is at the corner of Chelmsford Street and Stevens Street.
And
you
Stevens. I
We
got
can
Chelmsford.
pinpoint it a little bit better. Thank you.
Okay. Corner of Chelmsford and Stevens.
Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved, which brings us, I think, to the city manager's portion of the agenda. First item are communications from the city manager, responses to council motions and requests. Any questions or comments on any of those matters?
Motion to place the communication on file.
Okay, motion to accept the communication placed on file by Councilor Rita Mercier, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is placed on file. Next item is a communication from the city manager for out-of-state travel. There are two separate items. Any objection to considering them together? Hearing none, we will do that. Dear Mayor and City Councilors, attached you'll find a request from Ed Davis, Superintendent of Lowell Police, to send 2 employees to the Canadian American Cooperative Association meeting, which will be held in Quebec, Canada. Funds for this travel request come from the Law Enforcement Trust Fund. And the second request, dear Mayor and members of the City Council, Division of Planning and Development is requesting approval for Carrie Johnson, Director of Lead Paint Abatement Program, Joni Ilg, Program Specialist, to attend HUD's 2006 Office of Healthy Homes and Lead Hazard Control New Grantees Orientation, November 13-14 in Annapolis, Maryland. Ms. Johnson has been invited to be a panelist guest speaker on the documenting, match, and tracking administrative cost portion of this seminar. In addition, the grantees with new key staff are encouraged to attend. Ms. Ilg is new to the program, will benefit greatly from the introductory material presented. Following are estimated expenses for 2 people will be paid entirely through the Lead Hazard Control Grant Funds. Total expenses $1,214. Sincerely, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Any questions? Motion to approve by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Elliott. Roll call, please.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Next item is a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from Walmart Foundation of $1,000 toward community policing outreach administered by the Lowell Police Department, whereas Walmart Foundation desires to donate $1,000 toward community policing outreach administered by the Lowell Police Department, whereas the City of Lowell desires to accept such gift of $1,000 toward community policing outreach administered by the City of Lowell Police Department. Now therefore be it voted that the city manager be and hereby is authorized in the name of the City of Lowell to accept a gift of $1,000 toward community policing outreach administered by the City of Lowell Police Department pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, and be it further voted that we as members of the City Council of Lowell jointly and severally do hereby commend and officially thank the Walmart Foundation for their generosity displayed through their donation to the City of Lowell for use by the Police Department. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from Walmart Foundation of $1,000 toward community policing outreach administered by the Lowell Police Department. Questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Next item is a vote authorizing the city manager to apply, accept, and expend funds from the United States Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, an amount up to $5,000 under the Cambodian Community and Health 2010 project. Whereas the City of Lowell, through its City Council and through its Council on Aging, is desirous of applying for a grant from the United States Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Disease Control, under the Cambodian Community Health 2010 project, whereas the grant will make available to the city an amount of up to $5,000, and whereas said grant would be to increase access to the healthcare system for Cambodians with CVD and/or diabetes. Funds will support a part-time community health outreach worker, approximately 8 hours a week, who will act as a liaison between the Lowell Community Health Center's Cambodian Community Health 2010 program and the Lowell Senior Center. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell that the city manager be and hereby is authorized to apply, accept, and expend from the United States Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, an amount up to $5,000 under the Cambodian Community Health 2010 project. Be it further voted that the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell be and hereby is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary in connection with said grant from the United States Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention under the Cambodian Community Health 2010 project, including expenditure thereof. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the city manager to apply, accept, and expend funds from the United States Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in an amount up to $5,000 under the Cambodian Community Health 2010 project. Questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Next item is a communication from the city manager concerning Monty Varr. This letter acknowledges receipt of your letter in which you resigned from the Lowell Election Commission. I'm filing your resignation and this acceptance thereof with the city clerk as required by law, and I'm also forward copies as a communication to the city council. City of Lowell appreciates your service on the Lowell Election Commission, and on its behalf I extend its thanks. Very truly yours, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. It's a motion to accept the communication placed on file by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter is accepted and placed on file. Next item is a vote authorizing the Lowell School Committee on behalf of the City of Lowell to enter a lease agreement with 26 Palmer Street Realty Trust for property located at 26 Palmer Street in Lowell. This lease goes on for some 20-odd pages. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading say aye. Any opposed? The full reading is waived. Second reading by title. A vote authorizing the school committee on behalf of the City of Lowell to enter into a lease agreement with 26 Palmer Street Realty Trust for property located at 26 Palmer Street, Lowell. Councilor Donahue.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager on the literacy center lease. It's paid for out of a grant that the city receives, community partnerships for children through the Mass Department of Education. That's a grant that's awarded on an annual basis, is that right?
I believe it is, yes.
So, but this lease will be the same as all others. In other words, even though it's a 3-year lease, if we don't get the grant, we have no obligation under the lease.
Under Massachusetts law, everything is subject to annual appropriation.
I remember when we first did the literacy center on Palmer Street, and it was grant appropriated or paid for by grants, and it was something at that time that the school department determined was badly needed in terms of family literacy. I mean, I support this. It's so long as it's not coming out of the local budget, because we don't have the money to be leasing property like this. But as I recall, the original grant was particularly targeted for these kinds of expenditures, and I'm assuming it hasn't changed, so that it's still meeting the purpose. I guess maybe it's the mayor who can answer this question. Perhaps the school department can provide us with an update of how often is the literacy center used, what kind of data they have as far as what's happened in the early years of the literacy center. I know my office is right across the street, and it's a very busy place there. People bringing very young children in and out all the time for, reading groups and so forth. So, I think as urban education goes, it's an important factor. But, if we could get some information as to where we stand. Maybe you have it, Mr. Manager, I don't know.
Mr. Manager, but
Mr. Mayor, to the council, Jay Lang from the school department is expected to be here at some point this evening and will be able to provide some information, perhaps not that specific information, but we can certainly contact the school department and get the numbers as to the utilization. I can basically echo what you've already stated. It is a very popular program within the city, and the grant is specifically for this type of expenditure, and it is subject to annual receipt of that grant, or the lease would be terminated.
I mean, for instance, we couldn't take this money and apply it to rental of the Bon Marché building, because that isn't how the grant is set up.
That's
or
correct.
It wasn't in the past.
It's not. It couldn't be used for that. It also couldn't be used for other expenditures.
Right.
It's specifically for the rental of this type.
Okay. Well, I support it, and I just think it's good to be updated. Again, just from observations, it seems to be a very, very busy center, and something that's got to help in terms of education, and especially the ages of the kids going in there with parents.
we have data available on that. It's a requirement of the grant, so we'll get a report.
And I'm sure if it wasn't
council.
successful, the school department wouldn't be pursuing this. So I support this. It just would like to get the information.
Okay. Councilor Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, is the school department there now?
Yes, they are, Council.
And where exactly is this location?
It's right next to the recruiting center.
Right in back of it? Is it on the first floor or the second floor?
It's on the first floor.
First floor.
And how far along are they on the negotiations?
I believe the negotiations are complete as a result of the
Okay.
request for proposals.
And how long is the term for?
It's a 3-year term, and it is subject to annual
Didn't
appropriation.
you read it?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Yep. Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Next item is a communication from the city manager regarding appointment to the Lowell Election Commission. Dear Mayor and members of the City Council, pursuant to Chapter 154 of the Acts of 1920, Chapter 115 of the Acts of 1921, Chapter 131 of the Acts of 1923, and Chapter 30 of the Acts of 1992, I am appointing Tel T. Sar, 83 Beach Street, Lowell, to the Election Commission to fill the unexpired term of Monty Varr, who resigned on October 17, 2006, which term expires on April 3, 2008, or such time thereafter until his successor is appointed and qualified. Confirmation by the City Council is required for this appointment and is hereby requested. I have attached a copy of his resume for your review and would be happy to answer any inquiries that you may have concerning this appointment. Very truly yours, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager.
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Any questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
That concludes the city manager's portion of the agenda. Mr. Manager, I apologize. I should have had you acknowledge the presence of our new CFO at the outset of the meeting. Perhaps you want to introduce Mr. Moses and accept our apologies for not being on top of this sooner.
I should probably, Mr. Mayor, I probably should have asked for recognition for that purpose. Joining me on my right tonight is Thomas Moses, our new Chief Financial Officer. As you recall, I recently appointed him. He's been serving as the Chief Financial Officer of the City of Gloucester. He started yesterday. He's already well underway in compiling all of our financial information and working on the variety of financial issues that we have before us. And as I've indicated to you when I made the appointment, I believe that he'll provide a tremendous benefit to me as I move forward in my administration and to the city as a whole. So I welcome here tonight. I think he's had a chance to meet each one of you as councilors, and I'm looking forward to working with him.
Okay.
Welcome.
Welcome, Mr. Moses.
Find
Okay.
us some money.
I noticed Mr. Lang has arrived. Are there any questions for him concerning the Family Literacy Center lease? Mr. Lang, any objection to having Mr. Lang come to the podium?
We should we
Councilor Donahue.
Thank you. Well, we already proved it, but anyway, my question was, and this is still grant funded and it's appropriated for this purpose. One of the things and I commented earlier, my office sits right across the street, so I see so many people in and out, especially with young children, and it seems to be widely used. But I assume that the school department keeps some data as to, how often it's used and whether it's been successful from whatever. So if we can be provided that, I'm not asking for it from you tonight, but I think that would be helpful for the council. That there are some areas where we pay the bill, and in this case it's grant funded, but still it's nice to see do these initiatives pay off. And when it was first being proposed, I know people talked about, well, what do we need this for? We have a public library, but it's quite different what the services are that are offered here. So I guess through to you, if you can
Sure.
bring the message back and give us the information, it would be enlightening.
Yeah, briefly, I can just tell you that the
the 3-year lease, 32 months actually, it's 8 months in this fiscal year and then 2 additional years beyond that, are paid for out of an early childhood grant. The Family Literacy Center on Palmer Street for 6 years now has housed the early childhood department and all of their staff. We have 2 full-serving classrooms for preschool at the facility, and then 1 adult ed classroom. And we do have a lot of families, adults that come with their kids, the children enrolled in the preschool program, and then the adults are in ESL GED classes in the adult classroom at the facility. It is entirely paid for, and it's a specific function written into the grant that allowed us to open the center 6 years ago. And it is it's an early childhood grant through the Department of Education. But I'd be happy to get you a copy. They do an annual report out of the department which encompasses a lot of the activities at the Literacy Center, so I'd be happy to forward that on to you.
That would be helpful. I think I was mayor when it opened, and I remember one of the things we looked at was were there facilities that were already owned and operated by the city where the literacy center could be sited, and there were not at the time.
Correct.
And I assume that's still the case because you're looking
Correct.
to renew the lease. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone, any other questions for Mr. Lang? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Subcommittee reports. Any subcommittee reports? Councilor Elliott.
Excuse me, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Subcommittee met this evening with the city manager and Sue LeMay, the chairperson of the Board of Assessors. Essentially in response to a motion that I have filed getting an update on property valuations in the city. And Mr. Manager, I'll ask you for an explanation, but the essence of the meeting was this is not a triannual revaluation year, and it took me some time to understand this and there is a little bit of a difference just for people at home. Each year we're required to do a triannual revaluation, which means every 3 years we look at every single individual parcel of property. The Department of Revenue comes in and evaluates the assessment of these parcels of property. Each year, under the new law, as of fiscal year 05, we are required to do an update, which is different from a complete triannual revaluation. And essentially what that means is the assessor's office looks at all of the sales that took place in this given year, which would be fiscal year January 1st, 05 to December 31st of 05, because we're in 06. And they look at those sales, and if there is a increase or decrease with the total property valuation with any given class, commercial, industrial, or personal property, or any real estate, then we're required to do an update, or we're required to do an evaluation of all the parcels of property and update them, meaning, for instance, I'll take it for instance, there was an increase, so we did do an update on all the property values, and I'll ask the manager, you're a little bit more well-versed in this tonight, but we did do a revaluation because there was a change of 10% in certain categories. So remember, if there's a 10% increase in any category, and there are a number of them, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, essentially 8 categories. If there's an increase or decrease, then we have to do an update, and that's what we did. So some categories went down, some categories went up. Overall, there was an increase in property valuation for fiscal year for this year. And the manager the assessor didn't have that with her at the meeting. However, and the manager will announce this as well, but residential, any property owner can go on the web and look at their new property assessments essentially as of Friday, according to Sue LeMay. Those are on the web. The manager will provide information. People can come down to City Hall, as a matter of fact, and look at those new assessments for this fiscal year. So there was a lengthy discussion about those classes that went up and those that did go down. One in particular, 1120 class, there's some concern that they weren't assessed appropriately and that there was that they weren't fully assessed as to what they were selling for. That has been addressed in that particular class, and there's been an increase of 11% property valuation in that particular area. So that's, there was a brief discussion about the budget, but the Finance Subcommittee recessed for 2 weeks, and the manager will come back in with a progress report on where we are at. and what we have to do, and we'll be setting the tax rate sometime late November, early December. The manager did indicate this is one of the first times that, one of the earliest times that a complete valuation has been completed. The only other item of note would be before we can set the tax rate this year, the Department of Revenue required that we do an audit of this year's books, FY06. We did meet several weeks ago. 05 is complete, and we're making the adjustments or improvements. However, 06 is underway and will be completed, according to the manager, mid-November. So we're on schedule. There is still, the manager did indicate that we still have a gap of approximately $4.6 million deficit, which is down from 6.3. I'll let him elaborate, but in 2 weeks, there was a request, and I agree that we have a full picture of where we are at from July to where we are today, and what we will be doing to prepare to set the tax rate late November or early December. So that's a report, Mr. Mayor. I'm sure the manager would like to elaborate, and that's a report of progress. Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, the councilor has, I think, fully described everything we discussed in the meeting. We are pleased that the property valuations are complete. They are ahead of where they've been in other years, and so I'm very pleased with that. I think our goal, certainly in the long run, is to get them done as soon as we can after the, so that we can get out the tax bills or know the tax rate, certainly as early as we can within the fiscal year. The people that are interested in their particular values can log on to our website, www.lowellma.gov, or they can come down to the City Hall and go to the assessor's office and receive that information there. As you described, we did do an update of all of our values this year. That is now a mandatory action that communities have to do in order to ensure that property values keep up with the actual market conditions. Prior to this change in law, there were some options for communities to do this, and a number had done that. And it gets us away from the problem where communities wait 3 years and there's been dramatic swings in property values, thereby leading to some very large tax increases for certain classes of property. This tracks it a little bit more closely during the year. So we did do that. Next year we are scheduled to do the full revaluation, the triennial revaluation required by the Department of Revenue. That is a much more of a comprehensive review of our property values. And so that could take a little bit longer next year than this particular year, but I think we're well on our way to achieving our goals of getting this done as quickly as possible. As far as the budget condition is facing the city, as you've pointed out, the budget shortfall that I identified about a month and a half ago of 6.3, we've been able to work that down to about $4.6 million, largely as a result of an increase in new growth above what we had anticipated at that time, some $700,000 more in new growth, which is certainly a positive. Savings as a result of the change in the health insurance for boards and commissions will provide us with about $180,000 for this fiscal year. We also, as I think I pointed out at one of our last meetings, did receive a payment in lieu of taxes for the energy plant that had been in arrears. And when that property was transferred, they made a payment, and they're now back on schedule. So I think we can increase that to receipt by about $500,000. So all in all, we've worked those numbers down, and we're continuing to do what we can. Having Mr. Moses here is going to be very helpful to me in terms of identifying where we can make some further savings and where we can look to increase some of our non-tax revenue. And that's certainly my goal, is to work that number down so that the tax increase for the citizens of Lowell, the residents of Lowell, is as low as possible for the upcoming year. But clearly, as I've indicated, we have some structural budget issues that have been identified because of actions that have been taken in the past, using one-time revenues to close the budget gap each year. And the day of reckoning has come as the budget that you voted on back in June was based upon assumptions of free cash that didn't exist, and a failure to take into consideration the snow and ice deficit that existed at that time, that there wasn't any funding identified for it at that point in time. Those were the two major items that I identified. So we are pleased that we've knocked it down that far, and we're continuing to move forward to get it down farther. And I do hope to meet with the subcommittee in 2 weeks to see if we can get it closed up completely and, as I say, minimize the tax impact on the residents of the city. I'd be happy to take any questions that other councilors may have.
Councilor Milanazzo?
If I could, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, it's been talked about having the tax rate set next year earlier than where we are this year. Do you see us being able to set the tax rate earlier than, say, where we are today?
My preference, Councilor, is that we not that we set it before that we set it in the November timeframe as opposed to December. Long range, I think it would be beneficial if we could set it in the October timeframe, if at all possible.
Okay, motion to accept the subcommittee report placed on file by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted.
Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilor Elliott.
Mr. Mayor, this is not a subcommittee report. It's really a request to suspend the rules, and the purpose would be to get, whether an hour or later, I figured now might be the right time, where we are with the chief of police and the options that are available. I have no idea what the process was. I wasn't here. And, maybe just an explanation, Mr. Mayor, of what the process is, what the options are for this body, because I think all of us have naturally have an interest in it, and just to get an understanding of how we go about selecting a new chief of police, or the manager for that matter.
Motion to suspend the rules by Councilor Elliott to get a report from the manager on processes for a selection of a new chief, second by Councilor Broderick. Any objection? All in favor of that motion say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended for that purpose. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, essentially there's a couple steps in this process. Obviously, we received the news this weekend from Superintendent Davis that he would be joining the Boston Police Department, and he will be leaving the city of Lowell. And the first step in that process is we need to put in place an interim police chief. He'll be leaving us, I believe it's December 4th is the date that he and I had discussed. So between now and December 4th, I will be reviewing the various internal candidates and their interest in the position of interim chief. And I will be making an appointment for someone to serve until a permanent chief can be identified. Currently, the city of Lowell has the police chief's position is covered within civil service. So we have a couple of different options along those lines. The first is you could call for a statewide exam of all for anyone that's covered within civil service within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and that would simply be a written exam that each one of those candidates would take, and we would narrow it down to the top 3 candidates from which I would choose the next chief. The more likely, or the way it's been done in the past, is that you would have a written exam for the candidates within the Lowell Police Department. That next exam is scheduled for the spring of 2007. And again, that would simply be a written exam from which I would choose amongst the top 3 for the next chief. The approach that was used 12 years ago when the superintendent was chosen was also covered under civil service, but unlike just a straight written exam, we used what's known as an assessment center, which I tend to favor above or instead of just written exams. An assessment center would be an approach where we would put the candidates that are interested in the position through a series of tests and scenarios that would review and consider their leadership style, leadership skills, their management style, their problem-solving skills. Really give us an opportunity to look at the whole person as to who would be the best candidate for the position of superintendent, from which I would then go through an interview process again and choose the best candidate based upon the candidates that are put forward to me after the assessment process. I'm also looking at a number of other different options that might be available to us under law, some reorganization opportunities that may occur, and at this point in time, that's, we're only 2 days into this process, so we need considerably more time to make those, consider those fully. But those are the options that are available to us at this time for the selection of the new police superintendent. But obviously the first step is to fill the position on an interim basis after the superintendent leaves on December 4th.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott? Councilor Donahue?
Thank you. I think if we can look at other options, I think it would be beneficial. This is a time where you do have a vacancy, and so you can see, what, I have no idea, but what options are open to the city in terms of picking a chief or superintendent of police, which I think is one of the most important positions in the city. Under our current structure, the chief's position is a civil service position, and I guess I'd be interested to know how many other cities have a chief with civil service, if we can look into that. It seems a little unusual, and there are pros and cons to it, obviously. But if I understood you, I guess I'm trying to, the next exam under the civil service system isn't till, was it April or something of 07?
It's the spring of 07.
Okay.
I believe it's April.
And that takes a while to get those results as well.
That's correct.
So under that scenario, if the city were to opt that scenario, it would be months and months before the results would be back, and you'd know who your top 3 were, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So whoever your interim is going to serve for at least the better part of the next year.
I would say probably for 9 to 12 months.
Okay. I mean, I think those are, and again, you don't want to rush into any of these things where it is such an important position. But I think, again, it's the under Plan E, it's the manager who chooses this. But I think because it's so important, the council should know exactly what the process is and what options we have. So, I'm all in favor of finding out, if there's another method, and if so, what that would entail. It seems like we have, many good candidates that are, homegrown or within the department. But, how we choose that person, I think we should examine every option so that not only do you get the best person, but the best interests of the city are served, not just for choosing the person, but what flexibility the city has going forward. And that's where I look at sometimes it being civil service can mean the city lacks flexibility going forward. So, and I don't know the answer to these questions. So if we can, through you and the law department, maybe look into it and keep the council apprised of that would be helpful.
Mr. Manager?
Council, I will certainly do that as I go through this process of determining the process that we will use. As I say, there are a number of options. We are currently covered under civil service, this position. Many communities have made the decision to move the position out of civil service, so I think that's worthy of evaluation. I do have experience in having that occur in the community I was with before. I think there are benefits to doing that. And I think there is a tremendous amount of talent within this organization. I think that's a tribute to the Superintendent Davis, that you have a lot of people there that are very qualified that can move up. But obviously we do want the most qualified person. I consider it to be one of the top or most important positions that a manager has to appoint during his or her tenure, and so I take this very seriously, and I think we have to make sure that it's right for now, but also that it does have the flexibility that it's right for the future as well. So I concur.
Yeah, and I think even though it's the manager's choice, if there are steps that have to be taken by the council, if we were to change the structure, then we need a lot of time to think about that and a lot of information. So, that's the point of the discussion, is just to let's see what the options are. If there are actions that the council would take by, any legislative sort of action, then we should really be fully informed and then think about it and be able to proceed, after due diligence and thought, so.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I couldn't agree more with Councilor Donahue. I just had a couple of respectful questions. You mentioned the assessment option. Mm-hmm. And would that assessment option take roughly the same amount of time as the exams, or would that be more an expedited process?
Council, I believe that would be somewhat expedited. It would still require the approvals of civil service as to the format of the assessment center, but then the results are much faster coming in. And it requires the approval of civil service, but it doesn't. It's not on the civil service schedule where they would take place at a certain date, let's say in April.
And would that process, would you be opening it up statewide, or would it be limited to the department folks?
That would be limited to the department.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Armin Mercier?
Would the interim chief be excluded from applying or being considered for the permanent position?
No.
Not at all. Okay, thank you.
Whether they'd be interested in...
Yeah, but I'm assuming that sometimes people who are put in an interim position are precluded from being an applicant. That's not going to be the case here.
That would not be the case.
Thank you.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, Mr. Manager, you mentioned there's an option of a statewide search. And personally, I don't think that's necessary. We have very excellent candidates, very talented candidates in the Lowell Police Department. They know the city, they know the makeup of the city, and they know the police department as well. So I would certainly support a candidate coming from our police department to be the chief or run the department.
Okay. I believe that concludes that discussion. There's no vote needed at this time. Under petitions, there was a claim in the packet that did not make it to the agenda, so I'd ask for a motion to suspend the rules to consider this claim. So moved by Councilor Rita Mercier, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended to consider the claim filed by Mr. Kurt Goslin. The claim is to be referred to the Law Department. So moved by Councilor Ramirez, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matter is referred to the Law Department. We have two requests from National Grid, one for a conduit on Industrial Ave and a pole location on Canoyle Street. These matters are referred to a public hearing. What's the date? On November 14th. So moved by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Those two matters are referred for a public hearing on November 14th. And we have a petition from the Chelmsford Heights Condo Association concerning liability for sewer pipe costs. This matter is to be referred to the Law Department. So moved by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matters referred to the Law Department. And the final petition is from Jamie Eshak, request a pedestrian light and crosswalk at City Hall. Motion to refer this to the Law Department by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the Law Department. Before we get to the motions, I did want to recognize in the audience tonight, we have Mr. Warren Anderson, scout from Boy Scout Troop 6, the Lawrence Street Methodist Church. He is studying and earning his merit badge for citizenship in the community. I wanted to welcome you, Warren, and let you know that the mayor was also a former member of Scout Troop 6. quite a few years ago. We hope you get your badge. On
You don't want to elaborate about your pursuit of that?
some other time. There's a request for take Councilor Rita Mercier's motion out of order since the librarian is here. Motion to do that by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Rita Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? We'll consider that motion first. Motion by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the library director provide a list of dates and times for computer classes at the Council on Aging that will be followed. Seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was just some concern about this wonderful program that's offered at the Council on Aging through the direction of the library and the director, Dora St. Martin, who happens to be here. I know sometimes we have a great program, but we depend on volunteers to open it, and sometimes they're not always available. Things happen in their family. So I just specifically wanted to get some sort of a schedule as to what times were available and how many volunteers they had, just a little information on it. And lo and behold, who came to the council meeting before it started, but the director of the library, Dora St. Martin, who provided every one of us with a beginner's computer class schedule for November. It looks pretty good to me, but I think that she has a message that she wants to bring forward to us. And thank you for such a timely schedule, and I hope that we can fill it, but I'd like to suspend the rules to allow Dora St. Martin to come up to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you for the quick moment to address the council. I just wanted to say we have a wonderful lab that's a joint project between the library and the Council on Aging. It was written with grants from the library staff, and it's an amazing facility. And we have Bill and Melinda Gates to thank for that, so they funded it. But we do need volunteer teachers. So I'm just here tonight, thank you for a moment, to call out for anyone who has computer expertise and has a few hours to volunteer in the community. We'd love to hear from you. We have such a need for computer classes. We teach Word, Internet, genealogy online, all kinds of things that people want to know about computers to seniors and the rest of the public. So if you have some computer skills and a few hours a month to give us a call at 978-446-7275. We're really looking for volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Can we make sure that this gets on the website, this information? Because it's both November and December schedule.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. St. Martin. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Milanazzo. City Council requests the city manager have the proper department check the signal lights at the Lord Overpass. Seconded by Councilor Rita Mercier. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. The signals seem to be working fine. The issue that I have is that they're all different colors. There's black bases, there's yellow tops, there's one that's actually on a telephone pole, and it really, being an entranceway into the city, it looks horrible. So I've actually had some people from the Highlands complain to me, so I thought I'd bring this forward. I'm not sure if it actually is a state issue or a local issue, but it really something that needs to be addressed. If we could have someone look into that.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Milanazzo. City Council requests the city manager meet the owners of the Doubletree Hotel to discuss care and maintenance of the facility.
Good luck,
Seconded
Mr.
by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since I did file this motion, I actually had a couple of conversations with the general manager, and when I say to meet with the city, I really would like the city manager to reach out to the Prokashani group to talk to them about the facility. And it's my understanding that some of what I saw may in fact belong to the city. As an example, the wall along Warren Street is crumbling, and it's something that we really need to take a look at. The area beyond the wall next to the hotel is a grassy area with a set of steps going down into the hotel area. I mean, the weeds were 3 or 4 feet tall when I saw them, and they have since hired a landscape company to come and deal with that. But I just thought it would be a good idea, Mr. Manager, if you could reach out to the owners We have the issue of the walkway between the hotel and the Middlesex Community College, which needs to be addressed as well. So again, the reason to have you meet with them is to try to hopefully get on the same page that maintenance, in my opinion, is really important to keep that as what we all envisioned it to be, as a first-class facility. Thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, to the councilor, I have met with the Doubletree Hotel about a month and a half ago, in my travels around the city, and coincidentally, the Doubletree has contacted me, and I have a scheduled meeting with them next week, so I will take up those. As I say, they contacted me to discuss a variety of hotel issues, and I will bring those issues to them. I will say that we are working on a number of those issues already, particularly from the walkway from the hotel over to the Middlesex Community College, the fountain that's there, as well as the walkway. So but I will discuss those in more detail with the hotel as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Elliott. City Council requests the city manager report on implementation of recommendations of Chapter 111F cases and report on the number of individuals out. Seconded by Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion does speak for itself, but I would like to know, through you, Mr. Manager, to the law department. We spent quite a bit of time. In fact, the law department spent I don't know, hundreds of hours compiling data and putting together an analysis and a series of recommendations that this council adopted quite some time ago. And I'd just like to get a report on not only, number one, where we are with the number of officers that have been on extended leave, but where we are with the other recommendations, including implementing the database with this new software system that would allow us to track the progress of these individuals, the hiring of an orthopedic, I believe it was an orthopedic surgeon, an occupational therapist or a nurse, limit on out-of-state travel. I think there were 5 or 6 recommendations that we had adopted, and I'd like to know if they have been adopted, and if they are, how far are we in implementing them, as well as the number of officers. What is the current status? We had an awful lot of officers out. That clearly, translates to less or a smaller police force in the street, which we desperately need. So, Mr. Manager.
Sure, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Council, that was one of the issues that was at the forefront when I first assumed the position of city manager, and I had an opportunity to work with the law department as well as the police department on a number of these issues. For next, the solicitor, I'm sure we'll have some additional information for you tonight, but we are currently compiling a report on the numbers as to the numbers of officers that have been out, and the length of time that they've been out, the progress that's been made along those lines, and we also are moving forward with a number of the recommendations that have been made or that have been worked out amongst all the various parties and that the council has been involved with. So that report should be ready for you at the next council meeting in a communication. Perhaps the solicitor would like to add the specifics to some of those recommendations.
Sure. As far as the numbers as they stand today, there are currently 20 police officers that are receiving 111F benefits and 3 members of the fire department. As far as the numbers, as the manager indicated, we're looking closely at the numbers. There are a number of claims that come in a given year. For example, the physician started in February, so this nurse-doctor team, really hasn't even been aboard yet for a year. But what we're seeing and what we're trying to track is that although there have been a number of claims, what I think we'll be looking at is that the number of claims, the duration of stay on 111F is dropping dramatically. So where we did have instances where those that were on 111F were on for prolonged periods of time, I think what we're beginning to see is a reverse trend, and that although we still have a significant number of claims, and there's nothing really that we can do about that, I mean, that's, I think, goes without saying, the nature of either of those positions, that the amount of time that officers are receiving the 111F benefits is dramatically decreasing. And I think, that's clearly something that they're in favor of. They're getting treatment sooner rather than later. And Dr. Zyman, the physician that we hired to handle the 111F cases, I think has been aggressively pursuing a lot of those things along with the nurse case manager. Also, as the manager had indicated, as far as a number of the recommendations that the law department had made last year, and looking at that, many of those would require some sort of collective bargaining results. But what we're working on with the manager is compiling a list and breaking down items that could be implemented right away and separating them from those that would require to be part of the collective bargaining process.
Councilor Elliott?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Manager and Solicitor. I appreciate that. I think it's important that we stay on top of this issue, and you have, and I'll look forward to that report next week. I did have just one more question. Does that number include, at the last subcommittee meeting, I recollect that we had administrative individuals that were out on administrative leave, and that was back in June, excuse me, I think it was in May, because those cases were going to be resolved, and I believe there were 2 or 3 of them, those individuals that were on administrative leave. Have they been resolved, and if they have not, can we get a report as to why they are not?
Right, and I believe that these numbers do not in any way reflect instances of officers being out on administrative leave. There are pending cases right now on administrative leave that are actually in the process of being addressed in the upcoming weeks, and I think that there are approximately 3 of them.
There are 3?
Yep.
Okay. Can you include that in the report as to,
Yep,
why they're on that leave and what because some of them have been on for quite some...
Some of the reasons that, I'll include in the report any information that I can.
Thank you.
Councilor Donahue?
Yeah, just following up with what Councilor Elliott just mentioned, when we got the report, probably back in June or whenever it was, there were some who were on administrative leave without pay, but I believe that was their status. But at any rate, if we can get a breakdown, because there's still a position that we can't fill. For instance, there was one officer who was contemplating leaving the department. So if we can find out where we stand with all of that, because if there are openings, that we can fill with a body that will actually go out on the street, would be helpful to know.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? Motion's approved. Next motion is by Councilor Elliott. City Council requests the mayor appoint an ad hoc subcommittee to develop a plan and strategy for building and health code violations in the city. Seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we have a lot of subcommittees, but I thought about this motion quite some time before I put it on, and I still stand by. I think we do need an ad hoc subcommittee for code violations. I think it was a little over a year ago I had filed a motion to hire a very high number of code enforcement inspectors, because I think it's such a, it's a huge issue that's not going to be solved in one meeting or, sending it to the manager. I think it's important enough that we do set up an ad hoc subcommittee, that when the issue is addressed, when we come in with recommendations, when we fully look at the whole gamut of issues that affect code enforcement, that I think transcends can start in one home and can infect a whole neighborhood. And I think that we have seen that in some neighborhoods. And I think it's primarily affecting the housing stock. And what can we do about it? I mean, as long as I've been sitting here, we have tried. In fact, I can recall having we'd send a SWAT team into a particular home because we were trying to deal with gang-related issues. But I think the focus should be on these absentee landlords, that they don't keep their property to building code specifications, they don't upgrade it, as well as the health conditions that naturally, come as a result of that. So I think it's a it's a big issue. I think it's an issue that is affecting the entire city, and particularly, in those neighborhoods where we have, people renting, and you can drive through, any number of apartment complexes, and they're a disaster. I mean, I wouldn't want to, I certainly wouldn't want to live there, and I wouldn't expect people paying rents of $1,200, $1,500. I don't even know exactly what they are, but they're paying big bucks, and they're living in real squalor conditions. And I think that it's a major issue that we need to address as a city, and so that's the motion. And I'd like to, we certainly would have to welcome the manager to come with recommendations, and I'm sure you've had some thoughts on it, and just to stay on top of it, have a series of meetings, and when the issue has at least to come in with the strategy, that's the end of the ad hoc subcommittee. So that's the motion, Mr. Mayor, and I welcome some comments and input.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the motion. I think it's a great idea, and code enforcement is critical, especially in these thickly settled areas where the homes begin to decay as a result of the landlord ignoring them. So I'm going to support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. 1988, Mayor Howe appointed for the very first time a neighborhood subcommittee. And I was honored to serve in that subcommittee with Tassi Poulias and Jerry Durkin. Do we have code violations back then, Mr. Manager? You would need much paper to write down all the code violations. About 1,400 cars abandoned in the streets in the city. The 300 homes that was dilapidated to a point where they had to be demolished. Code violations, immense. Building violations, immense. The neighborhood subcommittee addressed every one of them. Now, if you want to change the structure of the building department or the health department, that falls in your jurisdiction, not in an ad hoc subcommittee. That's your bag, not mine or anyone else's. If you want to bring recommendations to hire more people, I would be the first one to support that. We do not have enough code inspectors or building inspectors. We do have homes, and I took you through a tour of the city. We do have buildings in this city that are a disgrace. But we do not have enough inspectors. But that falls under your watch, your jurisdiction. It doesn't fall under some ad hoc subcommittee to plan and strategize what should be done or could be done. The neighborhood subcommittee has been meeting with the building department, the health department, with neighborhood groups for 20 years, addressing their concerns and all the issues. And we brought those concerns to the manager. And that's as much as I'm going to say on it. We don't need another ad hoc subcommittee, Mr. Mayor, to take the place of a subcommittee that's already in existence. Thank you.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
I guess the same concern I have is that we do have a neighborhood subcommittee that's been dealing with code violations and many of the issues that was brought up in this motion. I think this motion is a good motion as far as it goes to develop and plan a strategy and the building health violations all in the city. But I don't see why there needs to be another committee when we already have one in existence that has dealt with it, and that a plan to be developed by the city manager could be forwarded to that subcommittee to tweak it and to make it better and then brought back to the full council. Again, I think the motion is well intended. I think we need something, but I just don't understand why we need to create another subcommittee when we have one that has worked so hard on this issue.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you. So I'd like to substitute this motion and refer it to the neighborhood subcommittee,
Okay. So, motion and substitution
because
by
it is important.
Councilor Rita Mercia to refer the subject matter to the neighborhood subcommittee. I mean, That's a substitute motion. Is there a second on that?
Yes, I think it is a very important issue. I think there's many things to discuss here, but for the past 11 years that I've been on board, I've been in the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee, we've discussed these very issues there, so I don't know why we need another layer of bureaucracy. I'm not taking anything away from the motion. It's absolutely imperative that we discuss these things. I don't think we need another subcommittee to do that. I think we already have it. But I'd be willing to make a substitute motion to refer this without disrespect to my colleague, because this is important, but I'd just refer
Okay.
it to the neighborhood.
Motion in
Well,
substitution.
Mayor, that doesn't make any sense. The motion is to set up an ad hoc subcommittee. It's to set up a subcommittee, not to send anything anywhere.
But the issues are important to
Well, if that's the
discuss.
issue, then file a motion on it, but, you know, if you want to, my motion is to set up an ad hoc subcommittee specifically to deal with code health violations. So it's to set up a subcommittee, not to refer anything over to the others. So it doesn't make any sense.
But that's what the neighborhood subcommittee does. Been doing it for 20 years.
All right. Well,
Circumventing a subcommittee, Mr. Mayor.
Counselor, with all due respect, there are a number of different issues that the neighborhood subcommittee deals with. In fact, it's, I think, in fact, now called neighborhood and traffic, so it's not just code violation issues. Counselor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a timely motion, and regardless of what subcommittee it lands in, whether it's an ad hoc, I think it's something it's very important, and I think we need to find out from the manager, as Councilor Caulfield said, what direction he's going to move in. We have a new commissioner. He's going to be hiring a new commissioner, I assume, and that's going to set the tone and see what your plans are. If it's a short-term ad hoc subcommittee, I don't have a problem with that. I'm on the traffic subcommittee. I don't have a problem with it landing there, but I think it's necessary to address this specifically, not just let it fall to see what happens.
Counselor Donahue?
Thank you. I really don't, I don't look at this motion as trying to circumvent any subcommittee at all, really. I mean, neighborhood is a broad spectrum of things that they deal with. What I took out of this motion is, I mean, obviously it's a problem that has become a big issue. And actually code enforcement, this whole area has always had cross reference with public safety. You know, we had the manager's impact team, you know, for years that would go in with code and police and every department hitting a neighborhood and trying to attack problems. So it's always been a crossover, whether, you know, it's not just neighborhood, it's not just health, it's not, you know, it's public safety, everything can be thrown in. But what I took from this motion is, look, something's not working, folks, and the ad hoc being, it's of short duration to have an intense scrutiny, you know, on this issue. What can be done? Is there a recommendation that the manager's going to make in terms of it, and that it's a targeted, you know, effort by members of the council? I don't see it as trying to, you know, usurp the responsibilities of neighborhood at all. I just don't see that. I just see it as a targeted approach to looking at what right now is an increasing problem in the city, and how do we address it? What's the best way? I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay. Counselor Armin Mercia?
I'd just like to reiterate that I really don't believe that an ad hoc subcommittee should be created when we have a committee like the neighborhood subcommittee. However, the issue itself is important enough for me to just waive that concern I have about where it's going, so that to make sure it gets someplace. So I will support the motion, although I disagree with the creation of another ad hoc subcommittee. But if that's the wish of the council, I'll abide by it, because I think the motion itself is too important to be bogged down into where it's going.
Okay. So is there a second on the motion in substitution?
Second.
By Counselor Caulfield. Counselor Elliott.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, I think Councilor Donahue hit the nail on the head. This isn't to usurp anyone's authority or to create another level of bureaucracy, but I'm glad that it did at least attract attention, because it's a major issue in the city and something that we need to get our hands around, just like crime or anything else. And as I look at so many other subcommittees that we all adopted and supported, from when there's a single issue, like the Julian Steele or the Mayor's Task Force on the Arts, you know, sort of single-handed issue. I remember that we created one for the WIB board. We addressed the issue. Subcommittee is no longer in existence. School building program, stuck close to school, the list goes on and on. The thought behind it was, it's an important enough issue that it shouldn't be grouped in some other subcommittee, that it should meet for a specific purpose on a regular basis to work with the manager, to come up with a series of ideas, strategies, solutions, something, because what has taken place in the last 20 years, in my opinion, has not worked. I think there is a major issue out there in every single neighborhood of this city, and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. We put a dumpster ordinance in place a number of months ago. It's not working. Drive by any dumpster. We're charging a fee, we're collecting money, and it has had some impact. That's just one example. So that's why I filed the motion, not for any other, to have any other purpose to take over or to reorganize something. I'm glad we have some attention anyway, because nothing's been done, and I'm glad the motion is before us, because we do need a series of recommendations to start addressing the big problem that we face in the city. And every single one of us, I'm sure, has seen it or heard it. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the follow-up.
Okay. Councilor Caulfield?
Mr. Mayor, the Neighborhood Subcommittee worked tirelessly for months on end, working with the Health Department, Frank Singleton. We brought in a dumpster ordinance. We brought that ordinance in. It was brought to a public hearing. People came to that microphone and spoke in favor of it. The subcommittee did their job. Other people in the city didn't do this. I asked for names to be put on the dumpsters, the businesses that own them. We had a meeting about BFI and other trash collectors picking up refuse at 11:30, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We had those meetings. It fell on deaf ears. Now, the only solution to the problem is to hire more inspectors, not to strategize a plan. If an ad hoc subcommittee is going to do that, they're micromanaging. That falls in your jurisdiction. I'll support the motion for the betterment of the city, but it's still circumventing the neighborhood subcommittee and traffic subcommittee. It's circumventing it. And I can see it happening more and more and more with this council.
Okay. Roll
Councilor,
call.
you're welcome to serve on the subcommittee if
Roll
you
call
want.
on
Move the question.
Roll call on the substitute motion.
Mayor Martin,
No.
Councilor Armand Mercia,
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
No.
Councilor Ramirez.
No.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
No.
Councilor Donahue.
No.
Councilor Elliott.
No.
Motion is defeated.
Motion's defeated. Roll call on the original motion.
Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Councilor Armand Mercia,
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia,
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
9.
Okay. Next motion is by Councilor Armand Mercia. City Council requests the city manager have the proper department meet with the Cacavas family for possible island dedication, and also send request to the Board of Parks for recommendation. Second by Councilor Rita Mercia. Councilor Armand Mercia.
Thank you very much. I think everyone knows the family. George Cacavas, as you know, was just inducted a couple of years ago in the Hall of Fame for his wrestling prowess. He has a very proud family, and he would like some consideration be given to his family, and they're willing to keep whatever comes out of the Board of Parks recommendation to the council by maintaining it, and so this is actually to send this request to the Board of Parks.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield. City Council requests the city manager have the proper department address the icing condition at the corner of Stevens Street and D Street for pedestrian safety. seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion speaks for itself, Mr. Manager. There is a situation here where the handicap ramp is too low, it's collecting water, it's creating an icy condition in the winter, and the parishioners at St. Margaret's and pedestrians who utilize that sidewalk, slipping, falling, and so forth. So I would like that addressed, if we could do it before the cold weather sets in. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Motion adjourned by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Yep. Any opposed? We stand adjourned.